Good evening, YouTube. Pat for This Line Boughton here, and I have a compare and contrast gentle combat to the nap time video about the Mora Garberg and the Terava Jaakaripuukko from Varustalika. Here is a experimental set of montage flicks. If they're unbearable, it's about 2 minutes long. Roll that montage! Welcome back. Good to have you with us. So here they are. Here are these two knives that are head-to-head, comparable, contrastable knives. Both of these guys fit in the similar size range, in the similar philosophy of use range, in the similar cost range, price point. These are two knives from two different companies in Scandinavia. We have Sweden and Finland. And these are just two awesome knives. First, I'll start off with, I'm not even going to if you want the specs that go with each of them, I imagine by the time you've gotten to this point, you've probably checked out most of the specs and you just kind of want to see them sitting next to each other and hear me share my experiences with the two of them. I'll start with the blades. The Terava here is a high carbon steel blade. I found its edge retention super awesome. I also found its ease of sharpening super awesome, and you can tell that the bellies are just a little bit different. Just for my own style and use, I kind of prefer the slightly larger belly here on the Mora, but you know, the edge geometry is very similar. There's a slightly higher grind here on the Terava, and that generally helps facilitate slicing and cutting because the Terava's blade is a little bit thicker than the Garberg's. Not too big of a deal though. I mean, at the end of the day, both of these knives functioned admirably in the same. The Garberg was a bit better slicing, it was thinner, a little bit better, pardon me, at the that kind of careful, finer, detailed work. But it was one of those things where I had to think about it and work hard to decide which one I liked more for that type of work. The Jaakaripuukko did better at kind of the batoning and the splitting and the making kindling, the heavier duty work. It performed better. If you've checked out any destruction tests, both of these knives are tough knives. They're going to take a lot of abuse if you need them to, but they're also really nimble, easy to handle knives as well. You can kind of tell that the Jaakaripuukko is a little blade heavy, and one of the reasons for that is the tang of the Jaakaripuukko thins out a little bit and is kind of about that wide down. Is the width you can see here at the right here is about the same width through the handle. Not that that gives it any weakness, and with this molded rubber, the grippy rubber of the handle, it's a super tough one. The Garberg is a little more balanced because it's about the same width through the blade here. Exposed pommel, this is also sharp. You can see that doing some grinding stuff in other videos. I used it that way. I loved it that way. Both have these 90-degree spines, although the Garberg's out of the box is a little sharper. No big deal though. If you have a file at home, you can fix that on your own on the Puukko. Both of these knives come out of the box with a secondary bevel. You can kind of tell here. It's there a little bit. I convexed it out a little bit with some sandpaper and a strop. Here's I haven't done any edge treatment on the Garberg at all. You can kind of see it doing its thing there. But as far as the blades are concerned, both of these guys have super awesome edge retention. They are, the Jaakaripuukko is easy to sharpen. That high carbon steel versus the stainless steel, the Garberg, makes it really easy to sharpen. The main differences for my part, for actual functional use, came down to also, back to the blade a little bit, this higher grind, talked a little bit lower grind. Both have the secondary bevel for that added strength. This is slightly thicker, so that helped with the slicing, having this slightly steeper grind. But, really, yeah, like I said before, I had to look to see it. For me, the biggest difference and the deal breakers came in the handle. The Jaakaripuukko has more of a bit of a belly here, and it has the finger guards on either end to help kind of lock in, make it maybe a little safer for you if that's what you're worried about, if that's the kind of work you're going to do with it. I think this is going to be a safer handle. It's a grippier handle. This belly on the bottom helps fill out the palm a little bit, but what it fills here on this belly, what it lacks in the width. If you watch some of my other videos, you notice I've got these thick palms, short fingers, and I have trouble getting a good handle on a knife. And I started off falling in love with the Kansbowl. That handle is just one of the most comfortable handles I've ever used for my hands. Garberg is the same way, and it's one of those deals where you can tell how these share space. The Kansbowl and the Garberg, there they are side by side. There's a lot of other compare and contrast videos, but this is the sheath that came with the Garberg. I swap the Kansbowl in and out of that pretty regularly. I have an emergency bag that I keep in the car, and I like to keep the Garberg and the Kansbowl sheath there out in the car, so they're interchangeable, these two knives. Something I kind of really love about that system you have there. But for me, the handle that I found here, you can sort of see it's a little bit thicker in its width, but less of a belly, no finger guard to speak of necessarily. Not much of one, I should say, on the Garberg. A little blade thickness there. But the comfort and the ability to use it for a longer period of time is kind of the deal breaker to me on the Garberg. It's a knife that I will use more happily for longer periods of time and just want to carry. Like, I just want to hold this knife. So at the end of the day, this is the one I choose every time because it's just more comfortable for me to use. Now, if you have different hands, you have a different hand biology, different shapes, different comfort levels, this is going to be a super comfortable knife too. Like, this is not an uncomfortable knife by any means. the Garberg is just more comfortable, and my son over there agrees. Talk a little bit about the sheaths. Here's the Garberg comes with a sweet leather sheath, and the price I paid was about $85 for this guy, but depending on the day, depending on the sale, this ranges from $60 to $90. About $90 for the multi-mount system that you saw in the bag there. And this guy coming from Finland, they don't have the luxury of making as many or having quite the same sales. But this guy, I bought without a sheath. You have that option because I wanted to save a little money. B, I just like practicing my leather work. You can see I'm practicing leather work. Without the sheath, it was about $60 from Finland, including shipping. With the sheath, it turned out to be about $75, $80. And so when you consider the variability of the Garberg price, these are in a similar price point, they're similar function, similar size, similar everything. Either way, these knives are going to be awesome for you. If you watch some of the other videos on YouTube about the Varustelika knife, the sheath looks to be super nice, super worth having. So I would recommend that option unless you just like making sheaths, no big deal. But there you go. I hope that this was kind of helpful. That these two knives, the Jaakaripuukko is not a Garberg killer. It's a Garberg alternative. It's a phenomenal knife. I love it. I love both of these knives. I love them to death. I choose this one because of the handle geometry. It's better for me as a user. That if this is your knife style, this will be better for you. But if there's just something about the Garberg that's just not quite right for you, I think the Jaakaripuukko is an awesome alternative you should look at. I will include links in the description below to Varustelika's website with the Jaakaripuukko. This is the 110. They have a larger version, the 140, a bit more of a ripuukko style in terms of its length. And there you go, YouTube. I hope this was helpful in helping you kind of decide where you want to go. These are hardcore, durable, reliable, budget-friendly knives, under $100, similar within $5 to $10 of each other given the day or the sale or whatever you got going on. And yeah, I hope that will help you make consumer decisions that will serve you well in your own future. Godspeed, don't get eaten by a bear, and remember, whatever you do for this land, you do for everybody. Godspeed.